Hey, what's up everyone? Yahoo Finance story here. Calls to end pandemic unemployment benefits gain steam. After disappointing job reports, Yahoo Finance, as you see here, calls to cancel pandemic-era unemployment benefits intensified this week, as worries over a labor shortage gain steam, culminating in a crescendo on Friday after a wildly disappointing jobs report for April. I know, boring, right? Well, we gotta deal with this stuff. South Carolina and Montana announced plans before the report to end the jobless programs at the end of July, after weeks of local reports across the country recounted how restaurants couldn't fill positions. And this was something we talked about even 6 months ago when there was a battle over it. Maybe it was a little less or more than 6 months ago, but it was a period of time where Trump was battling with Democrats in terms of the extra amount, how much to give. I think Trump wanted to do, I might be a little off on the numbers here, but I think he wanted to do 200 extra as a boost. Democrats were pushing for 6, and then they settled on 4. I might, as I said, be off by 100 one way or another on that. After the jobs report on Friday, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce announced its support of stopping the extra 300 in weekly unemployment benefits, citing worker shortages, while Senator Roger Marshall from Kansas, a Republican, is preparing to introduce a bill on Monday to repeal the pandemic unemployment programs. While there are certainly people that needed access to increased unemployment benefits during the heart of this pandemic, we should not be in the business of creating lucrative government dependency that makes it more beneficial to stay on unemployment rather than return to work, Marshall said in a statement on Friday. But that's the whole Democratic agenda. That's their platform, government dependency. He's not winning any Democrats coming his way. There's not going to be Democrats flipping over to his side. What? My senator's a loser. He wanted me to go back to work. He didn't want me to depend on the government anymore. Now hiring? You think this guy's going to go in there? Yeah, I'm stereotyping him based on how he looks. You think this guy wants a job? He looks like one of those BLM Antifa type dudes. I'm just messing around. I'm sure he's an upstanding man who went right around the corner in through that door and got an application because he looks like he's ready to work. What's to blame for the disheartening job performance in April, though, has no consensus among economists. After payroll gains missed by over 700,000, 266,000 jobs were added last month versus estimates of 1 million. A firestorm on Twitter ignited among economists and analysts who largely agreed that tightness in the labor market existed, but argued over the culprit. Complicating matters is that the jobs recovery is not occurring in a vacuum, but amid a public health crisis that introduces multiple variables. The question is, are we going to do this every flu season, where we shut down and do all this weird stuff economically? A real sign of labor market tightening or even shortages. While there's no single measure for workforce shortage, increased work hours and wages are considered some of the signs that indicate employers are struggling to fill jobs and the labor market is tightening, according to Heidi Shierholz, senior economist and director of policy at the Economic Policy Institute. Both occurred in April. So increased hours and wages. Average weekly hours for workers in leisure and hospitality significantly increased in April, reaching 26.7 hours, up from its pre-pandemic levels of 25.8 hours in February 2020. So it's actually higher than it was a year ago, specifically in hospitality and leisure, they say here. That's interesting. We're not going to get too deep into these finance articles. Like I said, they could be a snooze fest. We'll try to find some of the main points here, but here's what they also talked about. The average hourly earnings for workers in labor and hospitality also increased to $17.88 in April, up from their pandemic low of $16.92 in June, and are higher than their pre-pandemic level of $16.90 in February 2020. Again, wages are higher now, and hours on average are more in hospitality and leisure. Some economists pointed to the increase as a sign that employers are competing with the enhanced unemployment benefits, specifically the extra 300 a week that the Chamber of Commerce said results in approximately 1 in 4 recipients taking home more in unemployment than they earned working. Supply and demand in terms of labor, right? Shierholz noted that the wage increases in some sectors may not be robust enough. For instance, non-supervisory work in leisure and hospitality still make less than $21,000 a year, after wage increases, according to Shareholz, or about $10,000 an hour. So non-supervisory positions are not doing as well as the average. While there's definitely signs of isolated and temporary tightness in the labor market, Shareholz said there's a lot of huge complaints that we're seeing really are about businesses being frustrated that they can't find workers at extremely low wages. It's interesting how he decided to word that. Extremely low wages. They're frustrated they can't find workers at extremely low wages. Like some bias baked into the cake there. I mean, what does he expect? What does he expect people to make at these kind of jobs? Weekly jobless claims at lows of the pandemic. So boom, that hit back in March and April of last year. Then it's kind of dipped ever since. It's at the lows now. The part of this chart is off the screen is actually May 21st. It dips a little bit lower. We'll wrap it up here. You get the point. We'll just cover this real quick. Several papers found that the extra $600 in benefits distributed earlier in the pandemic had limited labor supply effects, and they likely didn't decentivize work, including one by the National Bureau of Economic Research and another by Yale University. Today's job report has led to most people just restating their priors about unemployment insurance, and we have learned very little. A gentleman tweeted on Friday, through the end of March, changes in unemployment insurance replacement rates across the U.S. due to January boost had little impact on jobs. Greater clarity on what's holding back workers may come in next month's job report. Until then, around 16.5 million workers still depend on unemployment benefits that run through September 5th, while the economy is 8.2 million jobs short of its pre-pandemic levels. All right, that's all I got, everyone. As I said before, it's a situation where if you give people an opportunity to stay home and avoid working, they're going to do so. States, I think, needed to cut this off a long time ago, but I've been on the side of states reopening quicker than maybe some of you would be. It's time to cut stuff off, even if you start to wean people off slowly and incentivize people. Some states have done that, where they've offered cash to individuals who are willing to go off of unemployment and get back out into the workforce. But there's ways to wean people slowly back into the workforce, but it's long since been time to do that. Things need to get going again. Interesting why some states aren't doing that. I don't know. You've got some ideas. I've got some ideas. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take